All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started, and I'm sure we'll have more people joining us here in a few moments. But welcome, everybody. Glad that you're here tonight for this CoSIDA U edition of the CoSIDA Coffee Shop. Once again, we want to welcome everyone that has joined in tonight. This is going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully we can answer any questions and offer up some good stories and some good tips as you all think about a career in the sports information industry. We got a lot of topics that the panelists and I have talked about doing tonight. So we'll have a little bit of a structure, but we're going to leave plenty of time for Q&A and some comments throughout this hour. I want to start by going ahead and introducing everybody to our panelists tonight. We have Allison Hogue. She is in her first year at Coker University as the Assistant Director of Athletics Media Relations. Coker is a Division II school. Allison has also spent time as an intern at the University of Florida and with the Women's Basketball Coaches Association, and she's a member of the Young Professionals Committee within CoSIDA. We also have Ryan Small. Ryan is in his second year at St. Anselm. It's a little tongue twister for me. Sorry, Ryan. He is the Assistant Director of Athletic Communications there. He is also a member of the Young Professionals Committee within CoSIDA, like Allison. Ryan has spent time at Millersville, where he was a graduate assistant, and also gained experience at Messiah, Tufts, and Harvard. We also have joining us tonight Justin Wilson. Justin is in his second year as a Director of Communications at the Atlantic Coast Conference. Justin also spent 6 years at NC State University. And finally, we have Josh Foster, who's in his first year as Associate Director of Communications at Vanderbilt, and he was previously at Duke University. So I want to welcome in our panelists. My name is Andrew Mindeman. I'm the Director of Athletic Communications at Covenant College. I'm in my 9th year in this position, and I'm a member of the CoSIDA U Committee. This is a coffee shop that is a tag team effort between CoSIDA U and the Young Professionals Committee, and it's geared towards, you all, students, undergraduate, graduate students, or people who are interested in getting into the sports information or athletic communications industry. So we want to welcome in everybody and our panelists, and we're going to have some fun over the next 55 minutes or so. So I want to start us off tonight by asking each of our panelists to talk about their personal professional story and some of the duties that they have at their particular institution. So I'm going to start with Allison. Allison, give us a rundown on your background and what you do at Coker.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. So I started my new position with Coker actually about a month ago, and I am currently the primary contact for softball, women's soccer, women's lacrosse, esports, acro and tumbling, and cross country. And obviously I've been in the D1 level for prior to that, and so D2 is a really different level. But yeah, with D2, there's a lot of work than what you do at D1 because, I mean, where I am, it's me and 2 other people. And so not only do we also write for our sports, but we also help out with stats and game operations during for all of our games. And obviously, I mean, I have a really big passion for stats as well. And I've done basketball stats for several years. And now I'm learning stats for other sports. But D2 is a whole different level than D1. And I think my advice to you guys on whatever division you decide to go at, each division is different. And so that's something you got to consider when you look at which division you want to be at in the profession. But I also encourage you to check out all divisions and see what the background is like.
Right.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ryan Saul. My duties, I share 8 sports. My boss, Griffin Spencer, is on this call too. He has 9 sports. And we kind of share other roles within the department. But I have 8 sports. Professionally, I grew up at a D3 school at Endicott College, shadowed by Sean Medeiros. Kind of just grew loving D3, and I kind of went into a realm of going into different experiences within D2, and I do one with the internship at Harvard. Like what Allison said, it's all about comfort level and finding what you are comfortable in. Yeah, so it's a lot about is gaining an experience just through everything.
Very good. Justin?
Perfect. Thanks so much, Andrew. And thanks everyone for being a part of this CoSIDA coffee shop tonight. Excited to be with you all. I am Justin Wilson. And as Andrew mentioned, I am the Director of Communications for the Atlantic Coast Conference. It's a very exciting job. I am responsible for all the communication efforts for women's basketball, women's soccer, rowing, as well as baseball as well, or my 4 sports. Kind of forgot that last one there for some reason. It's kind of ironic because we had a pretty historic day in ACC baseball. We were the first Power 5 conference to have an all-Black umpiring crew today. So kind of coinciding with our Winter Unity Week, as well as Black History Month celebration for our conference. It was exciting to have that today over at the University of North Carolina as they played against Virginia. So I was coming back from that earlier today, but excited to be here with everyone. I got my start in this business in college. Kind of just stumbled upon this career. I've always been the guy who knew the random stats and the random tidbits about the players and teams and coaches that, all of my friends, never knew or never even cared about. And then once I found out, about this business and we are the ones essentially behind the scenes that are kind of pulling all the strings and doing all the research and everything, I really fell in love with the business. So I think it's a great business to be in. Love being a researcher and being able to tell the stories and successes of all of our student athletes and programs. So it's just very exciting to be here with you all tonight. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks, Justin. Josh?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being out here tonight. My name is Josh Foster. I'm currently the Associate Director of Communications at Vanderbilt, and I'm the primary contact for baseball and secondary for football. It's a pretty fun job. Actually, today just hit 200,000 followers on Instagram for our baseball account. So we're like the only baseball account that has 200,000 followers. So it's pretty cool from a social media standpoint. But I got my start in the profession. I was actually an athletic training major because that's all that I thought was an opportunity to be in athletics. That's all I knew about. And then I realized science wasn't for me at Alabama. So I ended up coming across a guy who worked in external at Kentucky, and he helped me get my foot in the door at Alabama working in the athletic comms office. So I was able to work with baseball and football for about 3 years, including undergrad and graduate school. And then from there, I was able to land an entry-level job at Duke as like the sports information assistant. And I was a secondary contact for men's basketball and primary for track and rowing. And I was just fortunate, about 4 months into the job, opening happened and I was promoted to assistant sports information director, serving as the primary contact for baseball and women's soccer. So I was there for about 2 years, and we ended up playing Vanderbilt in the super regionals in 2019. And there I kind of met a lot of people from Vanderbilt and made connections that way. And 2 years later, I'm here. So glad to be here with you guys tonight.
I'm not going to talk about what happened in that super regional, Josh. We won't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still scarred from that.
You might touch on that a little later. As I mentioned, I'm Andrew Mindeman. I'm the Director of Athletic Communications at Covenant College. I'm in my 9th year here. I'm an alum of Covenant, graduated in 2012, and gained a lot of experience as an undergraduate here at Covenant. Going into my final semester of my senior year, the SID at Covenant left, and there was nobody on staff who knew how to do the job except for me as a student. So I was sort of hired as a interim type basis for that semester, and gained a lot of experience basically doing a lot of director level type stuff, and parlayed that into a full-time role here a few months after I graduated, and been here ever since. So it's great to have you all here again. Let's jump into some of our topics, and I'm going to let each of our panelists sort of talk about each of these topics, but then kind of when we get to the end, if there are any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and speak up, or throw something in the chat that we can get to after each topic. So we're going to talk about the evolution a little bit of this profession and the skills that are needed in an ever-changing field. I've been in this field for 9 years, and it has completely changed since 2012. Social media was very much in its baby stage back in 2012. So I'm interested to hear from our panelists about the changes that they've seen, the skills needed to adapt and to stay up to date on everything. So let's start with Justin on this topic.
Perfect. Thanks, Andrew. I was actually kind of looking right next on my desk here and kind of looking at one of the things I have, and I was taking some photos earlier when I was at the UNC Virginia game, and I think that's kind of one of the things that is very beneficial in this business is being able to essentially be a Swiss Army knife and having a bunch of different skills in your skill set. So being able to take some photos, shoot some videos, as well as the ability to write and speak well. Communicating effectively is probably one of the main things in this business. We communicate with someone almost daily, whether it's via email or via text or phone call. So just being able to communicate and speak and write well, as well as photos, videos, Photoshop, InDesign. I think the business is really trending towards social media and anything that you can do that's visually appealing. So visual storytelling versus the days of writing long recaps or long stories. Everyone kind of wants to click on a video these days and see a graphic that kind of tells a story, or be able to see a video that kind of tells a story as well. So without kind of stealing the thunder from everybody else, I'll stop there and see what everybody else has to add.
Allison, you got anything?
Yeah, so I actually didn't decide I wanted to go into this profession until I was a senior at Liberty. That's where I was a student worker all 4 years. I graduated from LU in 2019, and I haven't been in this profession for a long time. I mean, I'm just getting started, but I remember sitting in on a lot of coffee shops with some veterans, and I know one SID I sat on a coffee shop with, he was previously at Virginia Tech, Bill Dyer, and obviously I remember him talking about what it was like back then. Like back then they did stats on paper, and well, today we're doing stats on our laptops, and so a lot has changed with technology use and how we use it, whether it's our phone, our laptops, stats, or doing social media. I would have to say that would have to be one of the things that is changing, and who knows what other stuff involving technology could be invented in the near future.
Josh?
Yeah, I agree with both Justin and Allison. I think one thing about the sports information world is that it's rapidly changing before our eyes. If you look at the profession now, it's totally different than it was 10 years ago. And if you look 10 years from now, it's going to be totally different from that. So responsibilities are growing, and the way people consume information is changing by the second. But as we get more responsibilities and as we get more tasks to manage, the one thing that doesn't change is the amount of time that we have. That's a limited resource. So it causes us to become more efficient and become more creative in the ways that we disperse information, in the way that we go about our jobs. So whether that's not writing 2-page recaps and choosing to tell a story through Twitter because that's how people are going to consume information or putting together a photo gallery because that'll tell the story. People are just consuming information in totally different ways. So I think we just have to adapt with the times. Sports information is just, like I said, is rapidly changing. So we have to become creative, and we have to change with it because people are going to continue to consume information in a different way. Like, I'm creating TikToks now. I never thought, if you'd have asked me a year ago, I never would have thought I would be creating a TikTok, but we have a TikTok account. So we just have to get with the times because that's what fans are viewing. They want to see TikToks, they want to see Instagram, they want to see Twitter. So people care about that more, and that kind of goes more into building team brands now, more so than websites, because people aren't following the website like they used to, or the media guys, or the game notes. So we just have to become more creative and efficient with the time that we have.
Ryan, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I got a few stuff, but I agree with all of my panelists on everything that is ever changing. I think a big part of it is, for me, and in the D3, D2 realm, is being flexible. I think no matter what, you have to be flexible. No matter where you are, you gotta know a lot of what is about athletics, and just kind of know an overall sense of what is athletics. And then I think from there, that will help you keep ever changing. If you have that core idea of what athletics is, no matter where it is, it will really help you to have that idea of that. And then kind of going a little to Justin and Josh say, I think social media is huge right now. I think, like, it is ever changing still, like by the minute, by everything. I think more of it is focused on captions. Like, we had a good discussion, Andrew, like, how long will we make an idea of a caption, and how will that be better than just writing a recap, and how much will that actually student athletes appreciate that more than just the write-up. So I think a lot of it is knowing your audience and doing a lot of research on that.
Yeah, social media is obviously a big thing right now. And Justin touched on a couple other things, being able to take photos, doing things in Photoshop. So a little bit of graphic design, a little bit of video editing. And really the big thing is being able to communicate and doing that through different avenues, whether it's writing formally for a recap or a feature story, or more informally doing tweets or captions on Instagram posts or TikToks or whatever. For the panelists, name a couple basic skills that everybody has to have to get into this profession. What are some core skills that you need to have if you're going to pursue this as a career? I'll throw this open to any of the panelists.
I'll start. I think the main thing you should definitely have is good writing skills. I mean, you got to have good writing skills to write recaps, previews, and feature stories. Second, graphic design, because there are going to be moments where you're going to have to create content for social media. And third, stats, because you never know when you're going to be asked to stat a game.
Yeah, I agree with Allison. Stats is a big part. I also think interpersonal skills. You got to interact with so many people in athletics. If it's coaches, media, staff, I think it's a lot of communication skills that we all talk about, but it's knowing how to read the room.
And your athletes too. You have to be able to communicate with those 18 to 22-year-olds. So yeah, very good.
Yeah, I would just add flexibility, just being flexible, not necessarily having, something in mind every day when you go to the office. Just kind of in this business, you never know, what could be coming down, the next day, which is one of the things I love most about this business. You can be having a regular day, and the next thing you know, you have breaking news, a player gets a certain award that, that you didn't know was coming out, or maybe you have a head coaching change or something like that, or you have somebody in the department that retires, or and then you have something that you're kind of dealing with that you didn't necessarily expect to be dealing with when you got to the office that day. So I think flexibility is very important in this field, as well as excuse me, time management and organizational skills, because you'll have several emails come in, and I always try to get back to every email within 24 to 48 hours. Even if you don't have the answer, just saying, hey, you got your email, working on trying to get an answer for you, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Goes back to that communication piece. Just kind of everybody likes to get a response, when they send an email. So it's the same for you. So always trying to extend that same courtesy to everyone else as well.
Josh, you want to add in anything?
Nah, I think Justin really hit it on the head. Being able to communicate, that's kind of one of the fundamental responsibilities of the job. And like Allison said, being able to write as well. I think at the core of what we do is communicate. And so that's, whether that's to our student athletes, to our coaches, or to outside media, we're communicating first, and we have to be organized with that. And like Justin said, time management, because as I said earlier, like time is the one thing that we're not getting more of. It's a limited resource. So we have to be able to use our time wisely. And to add on to what I was saying about the evolution in the profession being revolutionized, we just have to realize that we can't be stuck in our ways, and we have to adapt with the times, but as well, we still have to stick to the fundamental principles of the job.
Okay. Any questions from our group here for either of these panelists? I don't see anything in the chat, but if you have any questions, you can either speak up or put it in the chat.
I do have a quick question. I'm sorry to interrupt. My name is Matt McIntosh, and I go to a small D3 school called Shenandoah University. And I just asked them if I could start writing post-game stories for them. And I'm going to start doing that this weekend. And we kind of go by, our two SIDs. One does kind of the longer way, one does the bullet point way. Which way do you guys kind of prefer or do? Because I forget who brought it up, but someone did kind of say just put the bullet points in.
Good question. It's a hot topic in this profession, I think.
A very hot topic. I mean, I think either way is fine. It's kind of ironic. I was just having this conversation yesterday after our game because I was trying to figure out which way we should do. I opted in and said that this year we should try a different way of writing out recaps and making them more short and concise, and having like the first two paragraphs be kind of a story of the game, and then the meat as far as the scoring sequences down and kind of like the how it happened. And if you have any game notes about the game, put those at the bottom just to make it more quick, short, and it's not as lengthy, because 9 times out of 10, most people are following the story through social media now. And game recaps, you spend an hour trying to write them, and not too many people read them because they've already saw the story on Twitter. But I think either way is fine, but I just think being efficient. So whatever way works more efficient for you is if you can do that within 30 minutes and you can write a nice, solid, concise recap, or if you can write a bullet point recap within 30 minutes, whatever works for you is kind of figuring that out. Every school is going to do something different. And we often find ourselves looking at another school, trying to see what they do and compare it to ourselves, like, oh, we can take that, we can use that format. So that was something that I saw at my former boss doing at Alabama, writing the short bulleted recaps. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to steal that. And he stole it from somebody at Florida. So everybody's always looking at other people for advice. And I think either way is fine, but just making sure you do it in an efficient way and not spending too much time on it, because we can't just spend an hour on writing a recap when we have other stuff to do.
It's a very good answer, Josh.
Yeah, I think that's a fascinating question you asked, Matthew. And I think there's a benefit, especially as an undergrad. I think maybe the long form of a recap kind of gives you an appreciation for writing, and it also gives you an appreciation, and it also gives you an opportunity to really learn how to summarize a game and really get hit the main points and make sure that you're covering essentially all of the essentials of a recap. And then I think like once you develop those skills and you're proficient in it, then I think later you can maybe switch to, a bullet form recap where it's not as long, and it's a little more concise and just kind of, your quick hit, so to speak, where you're getting, the information directly. But I also think there's beauty in storytelling, and I think that, there's also a population that's also reading the long recaps, the long previews. And then there's also, your population that's, they click into a story and they scroll down to the bottom to see how long it's going to take to read, or see how many words are in the article. But I think just from a developmental standpoint, as far as gaining your skills and building up your skill set in this business, I think I definitely have an appreciation for when I first started writing recaps, and I was writing long recaps as well as feature stories that were, 1,200 words, 1,500 words, 1,600 words, and you're like, wow, where do I go from here? And I think it just kind of gives you, an appreciation for, writing, and just kind of helps better your skill set. So I think, there's a merit to both of those. And then, in Josh's case in particular, with the number one of the top teams in the country in baseball, they may not necessarily have to write a longer recap just because, you kind of know a little more about their program. But I think it also gives you an opportunity to expound on your program and your team if you do write a longer recap or a preview.
Very good question. Any other questions at this moment?
I do. I got it one. I mean, I don't know if anyone else is in the same situation as I am, but I'm trying to break in like kind of a switch career, so to speak. So I was a sports writer for almost 10 years. And now I'm trying to switch over. I just completed a master's program at Georgetown. And obviously I'm trying to break in. I'm currently a part-time. I'm just starting part-time at Lafayette College, which is in the Patriot League. It'll be starting next week. But all the skills and all the assets that you guys have mentioned, I've heard, and I agree with all of them. I feel like I have those things, but so it's my question in long-winded sort of speak is that when I've been applying for jobs forever, and is it normal to like not hear back from people, or from companies, from, 50, I apply like to 15 of them and I don't hear back until like, I don't know, 6 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever it is. But I feel like, is there something I can do better, whether it's my resume or it's my skills or whatever it is, to try to break in? Because I'm in an interesting transition, so to speak, and I think everybody is, but maybe I'm just a outlier. So
Anthony, I feel you. I mean, I went through the same thing last year. I mean, I was a free agent for 7 months following my time as my internship at the WBCA. And yes, I remember what I went through. And I mean, obviously, I mean, looking back, I think probably the main reason why I was struggling to find my next thing for 7 months is because the pandemic really caused a tough job market. And I remember how I felt when I was applying for jobs and I interviewed for them, and then all of a sudden I get turned down. They go with somebody else. And these were some things there were a lot of things I thought about, like, what was I doing wrong? What can I do better? How can one of them making your resume look good? Maybe have somebody look over your resume, and interviews. You could like do a mock interview. CoSIDA actually has opportunities for you to do some of those things. I actually did a mock interview with Courtney Archer from the Southland Conference through CoSIDA, and she gave me some really good feedback. And I think one tip I remember was that one thing I learned from her, and actually also learned from my mentor Barb Koa, who was also on the call. The one thing you can't do during an interview is regurgitate your resume. You gotta make sure you keep it short and concise. And if you keep your answers short, and while also at the same time showing your passion for the profession, you should be set. You'll be set. Just do your best and find ways that you can perfect your resume. Don't be afraid to ask for help, and also at the same time, don't give up on the job search process.
Yeah, there are resources from CoSIDA to help you out with your resume, with your interviewing skills. The Job Seeker Board at CoSIDA has some really cool things. If you go to CoSIDA.com and then go under the careers tab, there's some information there about finding jobs, number one, but also there's a peer review for resumes. There's people on that committee that will look at your resume and can help you build that and sharpen that up. And so it's a wonderful opportunity that you can have through that.
One thing I would add, just to talk about it, I think 85% of the time when a job opens, people already have somebody in mind on who they want for that position. So and we're going to talk about this more in depth in another topic, but the thing about it is networking and just having connections. So doing that on the front end, so once jobs open, then it becomes much easier to get an interview or become one of the top candidates, just because people are going to hire somebody that they know. And when they post the jobs, it's more of a formality or just to see like what kind of candidates would they attract. But in the back of their heads, in the back of their minds, they already have somebody in mind that they view as a perfect candidate. So the main thing in job search, the job is done or the search is done before the job even opens. So it's all about doing that work on the front end, building connections and reaching out to people and just making those relationships so that even if it's not a job with the guy that you know, maybe he knows someone at that job that he can put in a good word or she can put in a good word. So it's all about networking and connections, because 9 times out of 10, that'll do the trick and you won't even have to worry about it. But that's just what I've realized in a lot of time in the last couple of years that I've seen job openings or I've experienced job openings, and connections have been the key. So just having connections and fostering those relationships intentionally, though, not doing it with an ulterior motive or anything like that, but just intentionally doing it and creating a good friendship, relationship, and network so that when something does open or when there is an opportunity, they'll think about you second nature. So that just kind of alleviates all of the pain and the frustration when it comes to job searching, because that goes a long way.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic, Josh and Allison. I'll kind of piggyback off of both of you all just a little bit there with some advice. And I think what Allison said about your mentors in this business is fantastic. A lot of times you have great mentors, the people that you know in this business. They're advocating for you. Sometimes you don't even know that they're advocating for you. So for example, say one of my mentors knows a bunch of people in this business, and they may know somebody who's hiring for a particular job, and then they can give that person a call and say, hey, I've got this really good candidate, he'd be great for this position, you should give him an opportunity, maybe at least bring him in. Then a lot of times that can at least get you one foot in the door, and then from there it's up to you essentially to kind of display yourself in the manner that you'd like during the interview process, as well as your credentials and your resume and everything. But yeah, it definitely can be tough when you don't hear back, from different schools or different institutions. I think that the one thing that you can always do is continue to try and knock down those doors by reaching out to any schools that maybe in your area within driving distance and saying, hey, can I come volunteer? Can I come work a game? When you do work a game, if you have an opportunity to connect with the opposing team's SID, or maybe even somebody in their administration, you'd be surprised at the opportunities and the opportunities that can come about from just having a conversation with people. Whenever I travel with programs when I was at NC State, or even when I travel now at the ACC and I'm at different events, I'm always excited to meet other people from other conferences, as well as potential people who want to be in this business as well, and happy to pass along any information and take their card name information. Then we connect sometimes over Zoom, especially during this landscape now. You can reach out to some people in this business and say, hey, can I have maybe 20 minutes of your time, and then come up with kind of like an agenda of what you want to talk about on that call, and then just really be able to establish a connection and relationship with some mentors or some of the veterans in this business that are really well connected.
Cool. Thank you so much.
I'm gonna go off. I'm sorry. Do I have permission to speak a second time?
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna piggyback what Josh said, and actually, yeah, connections are very important. And I was very fortunate to have made a lot of connections during my free agency. But I have a little story about one connection I have. How I got the summer internship position at the University of Florida, it wasn't actually an actual position. It was a creative position for me to help me finish my undergrad work in sport management. And I'm actually friends with the women's basketball head coach at UF. That's actually how I got it. We knew each other during my high school days when he coached two of my high school teammates at Belmont. And in 2017, he took the job at Florida. And I did not realize that 2 years later, I would be reaching out to him about opportunities. And he copied their SID, who also started around the same time. And then I got on the phone with him to talk about it, and he got the green light for the summer intern position, and I accepted a couple weeks later and had a great summer down there, and now their SID is one of my mentors to this day. And so don't be afraid to go out there and make connections. I mean, when you make connections, you are showing that this is where you want to be, and don't be afraid to ask any questions. Don't be afraid to send them their resume, because you never know what doors can open for you.
Since we're on this topic, I think we should just go ahead and continue on with talking about networking and sort of how to get started now instead of waiting till later. I think This is a perfect segue for this. So we've talked about networking a little bit. What about for those college students that are thinking about this as a career? Matthew McIntosh is doing things at Shenandoah. What advice would you have for college students or maybe recent graduates that are trying to get into this profession?
Yeah, I'll start off. I think it's big to get internships during those times. I think whether it's a full-time internship, or just a little semester one. I did one winter one over my little 3-week break with Harvard. That opened so many doors for me with, again, as we go back to connections, it's just however amount of time you have, just go apply somewhere, send them the resume, and all SID jobs, really, we all need the help. So a lot of it is just sending out that resume. Getting into a little bit of it, once you graduate, I would recommend graduate assistance. That is a really good, except one part of it is academics. Yes, you gotta go back to school, but it is worth it. I think that's really good. You will have sports and youth sport contacts, but I think it's really important to get those internships and kind of make those connections. If it's just in your own college, we all talk about that college. There is always an SAD at a college.
The biggest advice I would say is be intentional but flexible. And to the outside person, I think those might sound contradicting, but when I say intentional, I mean having a clear, definitive vision of what you view for yourself or goals that you aspire to have. And then flexible by being flexible, knowing that you can work towards those goals, but you might not necessarily fall into them right away. So for an example, you might be someone who's very passionate about football and basketball and want to be a primary football and basketball contact, but an opportunity might come about and it's with track and rowing or volleyball, and being flexible by accepting that opportunity and working in that, but still having your vision on what you want and being intentional by working in that role and preparing yourself for when that that basketball or football role does come. So being flexible and just networking. For instance, kind of how Allison was talking, the job that I landed at Duke, I kind of got connected with it through one of my good friends who was an intern at Alabama. He had previously interned for the primary basketball contact at Duke, and he put me in contact with him. And based off of that, it's just how the connection happened. And I didn't even really apply at first. I didn't even know about the job. And it wasn't something that I was really too interested in because I was in grad school and I had another semester. But after talking with the basketball contact at Duke, it was like, okay, this is something that probably would be good for me, and it encouraged me to apply. So just continually networking and building friendships and relationships throughout the business and the industry and reaching out. And now is prime time because crossover in the spring, a lot of sports are going on, and you can just reach out and help wherever you are, with whether it's with your college or whether it's a nearby university. Everybody needs help. Everybody wants help. Nobody's going to turn help away. So going and getting that experience, because experience is key. And once you work for somebody, they know somebody, and then that person knows somebody as well. Because all the business is interconnected. Everybody knows everybody some way, somehow. So that is key, and that'll help you kind of get started.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic, Josh. One thing that I would say about kind of networking would be to when you first start in this business, don't necessarily expect to be able to come in on top, so to speak. I'll tell you a little bit about my story. When I first started at NC State as a student assistant, I was working in the basement. I was organizing photos that were in our photo room. And so I was moving photos of, Ted Brown and Tom Gugliotta and, Julius Hodge and a bunch of other former NC State greats that were kind of unorganized in the basement. And I was sorting through all those photos and putting them into folders for each of those respective players and a ton of others at NC State. And it wasn't something that was glamorous, but it's something that, I learned a lot of character from and appreciation for the process. And also for the business as well. So I think a lot of people make mistakes when they try to come in this business of, wanting to come in on top, wanting to come in, with very little experience and wanting to be the men's basketball or football contact or the baseball contact. I think one of the best things that you can do in this business is volunteer your time and learn sometimes. So a lot of people shy away from unpaid internships or the experiences that you can get from when you're just volunteering. Everybody wants to know, how much am I getting paid for this opportunity? And I always respond that you're getting paid with experience. You're getting paid with knowledge. You're getting paid with networking. You're getting paid with the opportunity. to build your resume and all these skills, and to also be in this environment so you can say, hey, I volunteered at the NHL All-Star Weekend, or hey, I volunteered, at the ACC. So when I was a student at NC State, I used to volunteer at all the championships with the ACC, and little did I know that I was essentially being interviewed back then, and I was doing, a good job. And, so when this position did come available, I was able to, reach out to the ACC and be able to get this position with the ACC. But I think just that the volunteer experiences are really, really key in this business.
And I'll go on top of that. So when I was at the WBCA, I attended the 2020 Emerging Leaders Seminar at the NCAA, and I remember meeting a few who were already in the SID industry. I think one of them is actually on this call, if I'm not mistaken. But we became really good friends after that. And I think looking back on that experience and just learning how important connections are is key. And I've really been very blessed to have connected with so many different people in this business, whether it's interviewing for a job, or meeting them at events like ELS, or CoSIDA convention, or through a mutual friend who I've known for years. And just having someone I could sit down and talk with about like my goals and what I'm interested in doing. And I've also had some freelance opportunities with Duke during the summer, after friending with their women's basketball, women's golf SID last year. And when I was looking for freelance opportunities to do, he gave me my first assignment of writing a feature story for their women's basketball program, and followed by another story on their golf program. And so you never know what you can get from those connections, because who knows, they could have something you could work on while you're looking for your next thing. I mean, don't be afraid to ask for if they need help, or like with writing, or anything in the office, such as archives, or working games. And another thing I also did was during my free agency was something called the Scores Table. It's a really great company. They work providing stats for all sporting events here in the Southeast. I'm pretty sure they do some here in South Carolina. I was very fortunate to work a lot of games at Tennessee State, Belmont, and Vanderbilt, and actually worked with one of Josh's co-workers at women's basketball games. And but yeah, I would encourage you guys to explore, because you never know what you can find that you could end up doing that's really, really cool. And I mean, whatever things you can find that you can do, whether it's working games or helping out in the office, it will look really good on your resume.
Shout out to Lindy Brown.
And Eric Dolan.
Just the one thing that probably my last comment, it's this industry is very small. Everyone knows everyone, especially in CoSIDA, everyone knows everyone. So once you get that connection, I gotta shout out my CoSIDA mentors. CoSIDA mentorship program is a very good utility to use once you're getting in, because then you have a whole year of just getting to know someone, and then really having that connection for life. So I would recommend that if I could give any advice.
This is all really good stuff. If you're in a position to volunteer, if you're a college student on campus right now, I guarantee your SID on campus needs some help. So volunteer your time. I did that, and here I am. If you're not in a college, still reach out to a local school, even a JUCO or any small division school. It doesn't have to be a D1. Reach out anywhere and offer your services to them. We got a couple questions coming on the chat that I want to get to. Steve asked about how often you would recommend reaching out to people within your network after the initial connection. Anybody want to talk about that? Steve, if you want to get on and clarify that anymore if you want, or we can go ahead and see what the panelists think about that question.
Yeah, I was just saying that. So I work for a Division III conference, and so like a lot of my connections are crazy busy commissioners and deputy commissioners, where I don't want to be like, you know, intruding on them trying to figure out when and how they're going to be doing games for the rest of the winter going into spring. So just, I guess, and in general, if it was like a non-pandemic year, like how is it too often to reach out to somebody you've networked with without wanting to, you know, annoy them, quote unquote. So.
I think that's a great question. Go ahead, Ryan. Sorry.
I'll start off. I would say usually if it's a close connection, I would say maybe with 1 month, a month-ish. If it is a busy time that you think, I would say just send them a quick text or email just saying hope all is well, blah, blah, blah. But it's all about the effort and just providing them and knowing that you're there if you need any help, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's great, Ryan. I kind of have a little bit of a different perspective on it. But I think it's just essentially it's all about you know, essentially the content that you have for, you know, the person that, you know, that you're reaching out and connecting with. I think somewhere probably in the range of, you know, maybe every 3-4 months or so, it seems like maybe about the right cadence, just depending upon what season it is. So say like, for example, if, you know, if someone was connecting with me, maybe, you know, right before women's basketball season starts in November, and, you know, maybe right, you know, before the tournament starts in March. So that way you can kind of, you know, see how I can take you through kind of my prep for the season, and then also take you through kind of my prep for the tournament. And then also maybe somewhere around like the May time frame-ish, you know, because that's when we have the SC baseball championship. So I think it just kind of depends on whoever your mentors are, and just kind of what their schedule looks like, kind of when's their busy season, and then what you hope to gain from, you know, reaching back out to that person. Is it just like a, you know, hello, or are you saying like hello, you know, how about this event? Could you tell me a little bit about, you know, this event that you all just hosted, or could you kind of take me through, you know, this recent announcement that I just saw come out of you all's department, where you decided to switch to this, and this, or, you know, you all decided to release a new logo. Can you kind of give me a little bit of insight into that process of kind of how the new logo design came, or, you know, a redesign on a web page? I think those are all really cool things. And, you know, whenever we have successes in this business, it's one of those things that we never mind sharing. So, I mean, everybody likes to talk about themselves for, you know, to a small extent. Like everybody likes to, you know, kind of reflect on their career and talk about some of the things that they've done well. So I think that's always really good to do.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, I think that's a great assessment, Justin, just because knowing what they have going on and just kind of trying to tailor your reaching out to them around what they have going on in their schedule is key. And I think just being genuine, that's also a big thing, just because a lot of the times people have a lot of people reaching out to them just for different reasons. But if you foster that genuine relationship and it's not with an ulterior motive or anything like that, sometimes those relationships and those networks, you get more information out of that than you would if you were just pegging them with all types of questions, just trying to soak it, like just trying to get a lot out of them. So if you could just be genuine with them, I think a lot will come from that network and that relationship, whatever you have with that person, because people often gravitate towards people that they feel comfortable with. And if they feel comfortable with and that grow that friendship and that relationship, then it can grow exponentially.
Very good. Nick had a question as well. A little bit different topic. Hang on. Talking about work-life balance a little bit. In this profession, we end up working a lot of hours. I know we're sort of running short on time, but I don't think there's anybody following us, so I don't mind staying on a few minutes later to work through some of these questions. But work-life balance, it's not a 40-hour-a-week job generally, especially during the school year. It's more like 50 or 60 hours, unfortunately. So how do you all work with your work-life balance?
I'll say something. Something I've been working on is, whenever I'm at the office, I'm working, but whenever I'm at home, I need to find some time to self-care. And right now we are in our busiest time where we're playing all our spring sports, some of our fall sports as well. Actually today we had one of our fall sports play today. But this is kind of like my first time. So this is actually my first ever position to be in. I mean, I didn't have this kind of experience when I was a student worker and intern. But what I've been learning is how to manage work balance. And if I need to do something for work, I would do that first before I do anything else. It all depends on like what goes on during the day, whether it's a game or anything important. I'm obviously obviously whether a coach wants to announce a new signee to their team, and I get that release ready to go out, or whether it's a game, I would do a preview the day before and a recap the day after. And if there's not anything to post on one day, I would mostly be focused on working with photos or fixing stats or anything that my boss needs me to do during the day. But when I get home, if our team is on the road, I'd be doing social media for the team, then write my recap. But if we don't have anything going on at the moment, then I find my time to self-care. And something that's obviously changing is that, with COVID, I think the working from home life is starting to come in. So there could be moments if I don't have a home game I need to be at, I could work from home. And so I think that's really exciting to see that the work from home start to be incorporated into our industry. And I think that creates a lot of balance. I'm really glad that those new options and new things that we've never thought of would come into this.
Andrew, can I chime in right now?
Yep, go ahead.
I think just the one thing, it's prioritizing what needs to be done each day. If it is important for you to do this personally, make sure you have it on your to-do list that you will get it done. I think then from there, you can wrap around all what work is. I think not everything has to be around work, so you got to manage everything around. So a lot of organizational skills.
Yeah, time management is key because obviously you got a lot of things going on, but you can't be spending 16 hours of your day working. I have a wife and 2 kids, and I have to get home sometimes. And in a busy year like this, some things just aren't that important to get done. Yeah, they need to get done, but they don't have to be done right then. So I think it's very important for the self-care aspect of it. try to find some time during the days. If you know you're going to be at work late at night because of a game, see if you can come in a little bit later in the day. Don't come in at 8:30 in the morning. Come in at 11:30 or wait till after lunch to come in. I took a 2-hour break earlier this week just to take some time off because I've got games all week. So you got to figure out ways to have some self-care in there, to spend time with your family if you got one, and spend time away from work. Jackson wanted to talk about developing graphic design, photography, videography, and social media stuff. We are at 9 o'clock, so if y'all need to go, that's fine. The panelists and I think we're good talking for a few more minutes to answer any more questions that anybody might have. So we'll talk about this next. Developing your skills, especially in the science of graphic design and video editing. What would be some advice for Jackson on that?
I think there's no time like the present to work on your skills. And by applying them each and every day, I have a friend who, when he was at Alabama, he wanted to learn photography and he wanted to learn video editing. And so to learn that, he went with a smaller sport that he worked with and he started trying to create videos with them. And they appreciated the attention so much just because they don't get that on a normal basis. And it's not like they have a standard that they want because the bar is low. So you have the opportunity to create and curate content with them and work on your skills and hone your skills. So now he can do that for a bigger sport because he's kind of worked through the kinks and the early stages of his development, and he can apply that at a much broader scale now. So I think utilizing your skill set and applying it and really developing it on a day-by-day basis and using it actively with teams that don't get as much experience, or he even takes photos of his brothers and stuff just because he wants to work on photography and pop it in the Lightroom and learn photo editing. So being able to apply that on a day-by-day basis and always work on your craft, you can never not work on your craft enough. And also, just a small note as people pop out, with networking, you have 5 people right here that are open to networking, and everybody who's on this call should reach out to all 5 of us, and you would already be starting your network because we know each other and we know other people, and it takes nothing to reach out to all 5 of us. So just a tidbit that I wanted to add in before people start to pop off.
Yes, excellent. Thanks for adding that in, Josh. Anything else for Jackson from the panel?
Yeah, I'll add in one thing there too is that there's nothing like the internet. I can't tell you how many times I go to YouTube and find something. If there's one thing that I'm missing on, whether it's in Microsoft Excel or Adobe InDesign or Adobe Photoshop, and a quick search tells me exactly the one thing that I was doing wrong. And then if you also, sometimes you can kind of go down a little bit of a rabbit hole there, and you can kind of go through some Photoshop classes and kind of look at a video that's maybe 5 or 10 minutes where it shows you how how to do cutouts in Photoshop, or it shows you how to to do your tabs in InDesign or something like that. But the internet is a wonderful tool, and I know everybody loves being on the internet, probably on this call. So I think it's just using the resources that you have, especially it's always accessible if it's on the internet, so you can access it any time of day. And then also the other thing is there's nothing like experience. So if you have somewhere where you have access to a camera, just checking out the camera and going out and taking some photos and trying to see what you can get. You'd be surprised you don't necessarily learn how to get good until you've been taking photos for a while, or you don't necessarily get good at photo editing, video editing until you've been editing video for a while. So I think it's just mainly just getting out there, getting started, and then just figuring out ways to better your craft.
And I'll go off by saying that. So I didn't really get into graphic design until I got to Florida, and I remember my first graphic to create was a GIF. I was scanning a lot of photos for one specific graphic, and my boss encouraged me, see if you can create a GIF. And I had never created a GIF before. I've seen GIFs, but I've never. Sorry, the sirens are in the background. Oh. Hold on. Okay, that was crazy. Okay, but back to what I was saying. My boss encouraged me to like look in Photoshop to at a tutorial of creating a GIF, GIF, excuse me. But and I found the instructions for it, and I gave it a shot, did all the right things, and once I played it, it was like, I'm like, wow, how did I do that? So you never know what you could learn when you're doing a Photoshop. And something I encourage you guys to do is also find a book on a Photoshop. I mean, I think Amazon has books on Photoshop and InDesign, After Effects, in Pro. I forgot what's that video thing called, in Premium.
Premiere Pro.
Premiere.
Yes, thank you. Yes, but yeah, they will definitely have those books. So I encourage you to get one. But also regarding other skills, like last year I audited a class, 2 classes at Middle Tennessee State during my free agency in photography and videography, and I learned a lot of skills during those classes. And obviously, because of my photography class, I've been taking a lot of photos, especially for softball for my own recap. So that's been pretty fun to do, choose my own photo. And I also created a video on actually a silent film on my personal experiences during the pandemic, and just all the loss that I dealt with, from losing intern opportunities to moving back home during the pandemic. And all these projects I did during those classes, it was as I look back on them, I was really proud of what I accomplished with these skills. And so what I would say, I mean, if you really want to like find some opportunities to learn about photography and videography, go to your local university and see if you can audit a class, or if you're a student there, you can always do classes like this just as an elective.
I'll add in a few more things. Check out schools or teams, professional teams that you like on Instagram or Twitter, and see what kind of graphics they put out there. Because that's gonna fill your head with different ideas on how to create a graphic and different ways to put information out there. This is we don't steal graphics, but us in this profession, we look at a lot of things that other schools do and go, oh, hey, that was a really cool graphic. I think I could take that and maybe tweak it and do something similar for my team. We do that all the time. So if you're on Instagram or Twitter, just follow, your favorite professional team, your favorite college team, big time D1, low time, D3, whatever. And you're going to get a lot of cool ideas about what you can do. And then if you have access to Photoshop, play around with something. If you're not working for a school or an organization right now, you're just doing something on your own, and create something on your own, see if you can make something work. For social media, if you're not at a school right now, you are probably on social media as well. So that can be your place to start. And again, follow teams professionally, collegiately, see what they do. How do they do in-game tweets? How do they keep their fans engaged? Just by soaking that in, you're going to take that knowledge to the next place. And you can practice on your own social media stuff anyway. It doesn't have to be all centered around a game or performance. You can utilize your own social media as a testing ground for how to work in emojis, how to put in pictures, how to make sure things work. Those are good places to start. Does that help, Jackson, at all?
That's great. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Any other questions for the group about anything? I mean, we're past time, so we'll talk about anything. We all are resources. So you've got our names. I didn't put up anything for our Twitter handles or anything like that, but I think that's on the story that was on CoSIDA or on the CoSIDA Twitter. Feel free to give us a follow on Twitter or LinkedIn or wherever. We'd be happy to talk more. There you go. Josh put his down. I'll put mine down. You can find me.
Andrew, before we close out, can we close out on a nice little high note with everybody sharing kind of something like the best thing that's they've done essentially in this business since they've been a part of it.
Oh,
just so absolutely. We give like a nice little spiel so everybody's
we're gonna end on a big high note here.
Yeah.
People have stuck around. Yeah. So Justin, you brought it up, so that means you have to go first.
All right, I sure will. So for me, kind of growing up a big baseball fan, when I was an intern in 2013, NC State went to the College World Series. So going to Omaha, Nebraska was something I've always dreamed of. Grew up watching the World Series on TV. NC State had a great team that year. It was Trey Turner, who's a shortstop for the Washington Nationals, Carlos Rodon, who plays for the Chicago White Sox in the big leagues. So they were both first-round picks that year. So that was definitely a highlight of my career. A few years before that, I went to the University of Oregon for the Super Regionals when I was working with the softball program. That was the first time in program history that the team had ever been to the Super Regionals. So it's just really exciting to watch the student athletes achieve those successes.
Very cool. Allison, highlight of your career.
Actually, I have two. One when I was at Liberty, the other when I was at Florida. But when I was at Liberty, we hosted the Big South Women's Basketball Tournament in 2017, 2018. And obviously, I'm very passionate about women's basketball, and I do want to be the primary contact for women's basketball one day. But yes, I remember working a lot of the games at both tournaments, and it was just an amazing experience because I've always wanted to work a conference tournament, and just having that come to Liberty was really awesome. And 2018 was probably the best year because that's when my alma mater won, beat UNC Asheville, who won the year before in our arena. But 2018, I actually ended up working every game, and I was not assigned to work every game, but somehow some of our student workers couldn't show up, so I ended up taking everything. So that was really funny and incredible at the same time. There was actually one moment where we had a quarterfinals. We had 4 games in our quarterfinals one day, and I had a kinesiology class before that, and I was and obviously I knew I was gonna be sweaty after kinesiology class. And like right after I got done, I took a shower and came to the Vine Center at 10:30 in the morning with wet hair and left and didn't leave until 10:30 at night. And in Florida, even though there wasn't a lot of events going on because it was the summer, however, the Gators softball team was actually hosting their regionals in Gainesville at K-Stokes Field. I think that's what it's called. I can't remember, but they actually won the regional, and they got a bid to host the super regional, and we ended up playing Tennessee. And during my first week, that first weekend, I got asked to do the scoreboard for the super regional, and yes, it was a fun experience, except for that one moment where I made a mistake and the crowd just went berserk. But overall, it was really fun getting to do that and getting a Gator event under my belt.
Ryan, what about you?
My favorite memory and kind of event was, what was it now, 3 years ago. I was at Millersville as the wrestling contact, and it was more of the build-up experience of kind of covering the team all the way through. We went all the way to, we had 2 guys qualified for NCAA Division II wrestling championships, and then kind of going through that whole thing, and then actually getting to go with the team and those 2 individuals with coach to that event and cover them was just a whirlwind experience. And one of our guys at 165 weight, he won, and kind of that on a little technicality, but like still just going through that whole experience of like each time he won, experiencing that win as kind of a part of the team. I think that's why SIDs really enjoy their work. We get to experience the wins and losses as we were a part of the team. So that's kind of like my 2 cents, and I think it's really big of having that contact is big. So yeah.
NCAA tournaments are always the best. Those are always my favorite moments here. Even Division III, it's big time at Division III. Volleyball team 4 years ago now won a first round game in 5 sets. It's the first time that our school had ever won a contest at the NCAA tournament. So that was big time. And we've been to a couple other tournaments, and it's always fun going to those things. Josh, what about you?
So I've had a really unique experience. I've been able to experience something cool at each of my stops. Growing up as a lifelong Alabama fan, as a student there, I was able to witness the 2018 national championship, and I actually was on the sideline for that when Tua threw the pass on 2nd and 26, and that was probably the craziest moment of my life. And then while I was working at Duke, I think one of the coolest things was witnessing a Duke UNC game. The atmosphere there was kind of crazy. And that was the Zion when he broke his shoe and Obama was there. It was just an unbelievable experience. And then fast forward to June, Kumar threw the no-hitter against us. And now I'm working with Kumar. So that was kind of awkward. And that was the first no-hitter in super regional history. And then just this past November, Sarah Fuller with making history and being a part of that and the communications campaign for that, that was just unbelievable. And seeing just the national attention that it received, being on the Scott Van Pelt show, and even with the inauguration when she spoke there, just being a part of those communication efforts, I think it was just something that made it feel very rewarding to be a part of the industry and in the business. So I've had a lot of cool things happen so far in my young career.
That is for sure. Thanks everyone for sharing those things. We've got a few more people on the call. Are there any other questions that you have for the group that you want to have addressed tonight? All right. Well, feel free to reach out to any of us. We got our handles in the comment section. So if you want to follow us, be sure to grab those before you head out. We appreciate you all joining us on this CoSIDA coffee shop tonight. If you missed it or you want to pass it along to someone else, we are recording it. It should be available at some point on CoSIDA.com for future viewing. But in the meantime, enjoy your night, everybody, and hope you all are well, and good luck on your careers in the sports information industry. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.